Native American, American Indian, Native. There are many ways we refer to the people who walked these lands for thousands of years before the United States of America was founded. Sadly, our nation's history includes the near extermination of Native American people through centuries of what we as a country officially recognize as many instances of violence, maltreatment, and neglect inflicted on Native peoples by citizens of the United States. Today, U.S. Census data shows the largest tribal groups in the United States to be Cherokee, Navajo, Chippewa, Apache, Choctaw, Iroquois, Lumbee, and Pueblo, and Lakota, and the Native American population to be around 5.2 million people. People so very diverse and full of stories, culture, beautiful heritages and ambition, entrepreneurial aspirations, and an unlimited array of hopes and dreams. My name is Bill Henley from NBC 10 in Philadelphia. I'm honored to be hosting today's Employee Enrichment Series, presented in partnership with NBCU Cable Entertainment Diversity. Today, we are celebrating Native American Heritage Month. On our show, we'll have the Red Road Project co-founders Danielle Seawalker and Carlotta Cardona. Danielle is an enrolled member of the Standing Rock Indian Reservation. She is dedicated to keeping her culture alive in her home while living away from the Indian Reservation and teaching her two young sons the importance of their native ways. Carlotta is an Italian portrait and documentary photographer currently based in London, whose work has been featured in numerous exhibitions around the world. And from Comcast, we have Pam Kelly, Senior Director of Human Resources. Also joining us is Janeen Comenote, Executive Director of the National Urban Indian Family Coalition, and Colleen Echohawk, Executive Director of the Chief Seattle Club. As always, the Employee Enrichment Series is an interactive show, so I invite you to gather your questions as the show continues. Viewers watching virtually, you can email your questions to Brittany Jean-Baptiste at the address below. And you can also tweet about the show today using the hashtag ComcastUrbanNative. To start things off, we have a very special treat for everyone today. Our colleague Philemon Lopez, Senior Vice President of Strategic Operations, is part Native American and has a passion for photography. Philemon captured these great photographs at one of the Crow Nation's annual fairs. The Crow are Native Americans who historically lived in the Yellowstone River Valley, which extends from present-day Wyoming through Montana and into North Dakota. Take a look at these wonderful images. Philemon has generously donated 5 of his photo books to us as a special giveaway in celebration of Native American Heritage Month. We'll be drawing names at the end of the show. For those who are watching virtually, if you would like to participate in the drawing, simply email your name to Brittany Jean-Baptiste and she will add your name to the list. Sound good? All right. So please join me in welcoming our first panel, Danielle and Carlotta of the Red Road Project. Ladies, welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having us,
Thank
Bill.
you.
Let's start at the beginning. What is the Red Road Project?
The Red Road Project is a collaboration between Danielle and myself. I'm a photographer, as you said. Danielle is the writer on the project, so I take part of everything that is photography related, and she does the interviews and the writing, and of course she's Native American, so she's our connection to Native America.
So what are the stories, Danielle, that you wanted to tell?
Well, you know, it all sparked from conversation that her and I had on a casual night. And, you know, she wanted to know more about the culture, and everything that she was reading in the media was always about the negative stereotypes and those poor natives and all the issues that they face. But there was a real big gap in sharing all the beautiful, positive things about the culture and all the things that aren't really ever highlighted. So those are the stories that we want to tell and that we want to highlight.
Is there a story behind the name of the project, the Red Road Project?
Yes, the Red Road Project, it was a working title, and we finally landed on the Red Road because in several Native American teachings in various tribes, there's something called the Red Road or walking the Red Road, which is a conceptual idea of taking the right path in life.
And it's a web page right now,
Yes.
but you have hopes in the future of it being even more.
Yeah, we see the project as a platform for people to share their stories and inspire other people. So we'd like to expand our current website, and also when we get done with the project, we would like to make a book and a traveling exhibition.
Well, how does this happen? How does a Native American meet up with an Italian photographer and come up with a project like this? How did you get together in the first place?
That's a question everybody asks, and it all happened. I grew up in North Dakota. I moved away from that area when I was in high school, and I moved to Nebraska for 1 year. And at that same very year, she came as a foreign exchange student to Nebraska, and the stars aligned just right, and we became very good friends and have stayed in touch, and almost consider ourselves as sisters at this point. So we visit and see each other quite often, and we just have that special connection as friends. So
growing up in Europe, was there an awareness of Native Americans?
Not really. I mean, in schools you get taught about it. You get taught about U.S. history as well, but it's history is more centered on Italy and Europe. So we know about Native Americans, but quite superficially. And so the idea that we have about Native Americans is also quite romanticized in terms of this noble man in contact with nature and with the spiritual world, or ideas like that we get from movies. So one of our aims with the project is also breaking stereotypes and educating people about, you know, what Native Americans are today, how they're living, and, you know, they don't live in teepee anymore. They're just like, you know, the rest of us that got real houses.
Well, Danielle, what are some of the biggest misconceptions that you wanted to highlight and people to know about during this month?
I guess, you know, stereotypes are a big misconception. You know, I remember when I first moved to the East Coast, a lot of people would say, oh, do natives still live in teepees? Or, you know, are there buffaloes roaming around? You still hunt the buffaloes, things like that. So I guess I just want to say that, you know, Native American culture still exists. The cultures and the traditions are very much alive, but we have somehow found a way to maintain our traditional historical ceremonies and ways of life while integrating into kind of a modern society. So,
do you find it difficult to stay connected to your Lakota roots when you're not living on a reservation?
It is difficult. There is a fine line, and I find myself getting so encompassed in kind of, I work in corporate America today, so I get so encompassed in all these other things, and I have to really take a step back and humble myself. And when I go back home, I have the opportunity to do that and connect with my family and kind of and reevaluate my roots.
We heard at the beginning of the show some of the horrible things that have happened to Native Americans for centuries, but you didn't want to go over that over and over on your website. There's an amazing Jean Houston quote that you have on your website. Tell us about that and what it means to you.
Yeah, Jean Houston once said that if you keep telling the same sad small story, the same sad small story will continue to happen. So we wanted to break that because what you generally see in different media outlets and stories is you know, the alcoholism, the abuse, the suicide, which are things we can't ignore. They're real issues. But we wanted to also, you know, start talking about the positive things and hope that catches on and be an inspiration to the Native communities.
Now you're telling stories. So how did these stories come to you for the project?
It's quite spontaneous. I mean, when we did the first trip, we visited her reservation and started talking to her family, and then people that we met referred us to other people saying, you should really meet this person. And even though they're all spread out across the U.S., as a community, they're quite well connected. They all know each other. And so it's just word of mouth, and people just tell us to, you know, go visit this person and go visit that person. And it's really spontaneous. And even when we're on the road, we just go day by day because spontaneous things happen, and people take us to visit friends and relatives. So there's not much planning going on, and we've been quite lucky because things just happen. And I think it's part of that attitude of just being open and just being positive, and good things will come to you.
What has the reception been to your project? It's still fairly young, isn't it?
It's fairly young. We started it 2 years ago. Lots have transpired since then. But I think that as we continue to go down, more things will open up and more opportunities, and we'll be able to expand. You notice in a lot of the photos that you've been seeing, there's a lot of women, and you know it's not just about women, it's about men, the old, the young, the culture, the tradition. So we're excited to keep working on the project.
So you took many pictures along the way, no surprise as a photographer. We should take a look at some of these pictures, and you can tell us about them and a little bit about the story as well.
Absolutely, yes.
So the first picture we're going to see is a woman in a canyon
Yeah,
in traditional dress.
Yes, this is Sage Honga from the Hualapai tribe, and it's a tribe that resides at the top of the Grand Canyon. And when we met her, I gave her the option I told her, you can wear whatever you want, just look your best. And she decided to wear her traditional dress, which is something not unusual for her to wear. It's something that she would wear at powwows or ceremonies, so it's like her best dress, let's say that. And she wanted to be photographed in the Colorado River at the bottom of the Grand Canyon because it's a sacred river for the Hualapai tribe, so that's where we photographed her. And also I think with this picture it was quite interesting, she's the only one who has traditional makeup. If you see on her cheek, she's got these two red circles, and that's traditional Hualapai makeup.
Is there a movement in the Native American community to keep traditional dress like this alive?
Absolutely. You see it a lot at powwows and celebrations, and for instance, there's certain ceremonies that occur, like for instance when you get your Native American name, you go through a ceremony and the women have to wear a dress, or so there's different things like that. And I really like when I go back home that I see, you can see some of my friends will be wearing jeans with their moccasins and their beaded earrings, so it's kind of an intermix and it's really interesting. Yeah.
Our next picture is of an older couple.
Yeah.
It looked like it could be any living room in the United States.
Yeah, these are the Tylers that we met in Wyoming. And talking about how things happen spontaneously, that morning we gave a presentation to Indian high school in Wyoming, and then at the end of the presentation this girl came to us and she said, you really have to meet our grandparents. And so we had to actually fly back later that day, but we managed to accommodate it and we went to their house. And we just spent the whole afternoon there and listening to their stories when they were living on the reservation with no electricity. And I remember Mr. Tyler saying when they first got electricity and they first got a refrigerator, and he was just like the most surprising thing he could ever think of. He's just like, wow, a refrigerator. So it was beautiful, and then they cooked food for us. It was really, really amazing.
Yeah.
Well, they've seen a lot of change in their lifetime, obviously. You have young children. Can they relate to the lifestyle that they led many years ago?
Well, it's a thing. They were not born on the reservation. They were born actually here outside of Philadelphia, and so it's up to me to really keep that tradition alive for them and to instill the teachings that I learned as a kid. So I try as much as I can to take them back home where I grew up, and there's ceremonial things that we do, and so it's something that is still new to them as young kids, but I hope that they grow up with a strong sense of that's who they are.
Our next picture is of a man in a classroom. Looks like a teacher to me.
He is. This is Maka Clifford. He's from Pine Ridge, and after his studies, he first lived and worked in San Francisco, and then he spent a lot of years in Japan teaching English. And then one day he decided that he had to go back to the reservation to be a teacher and inspire kids, because what we've heard a lot is that people try to inspire kids to get out of what they call the reservation mentality. So it's a sort of mindset where you think that because you're born on the reservation, you don't have many opportunities and you cannot do things. And so a lot of people that we met, like Maka, they inspire kids to let them know that they can accomplish things. They just have to, have the willpower to do it and the passion, and they will be able to accomplish things.
Danielle, do you see a lot of people like that who want to give back to the Native American community?
Absolutely. I think we're encouraged as the current generation and future generations to go out, get an education. Don't be afraid to leave the reservation. Education's something that nobody can take from you. But once you've done that and you've had your life experiences and you've gained some education, come back to the reservation, come back to your communities and give back to the future generations, give back to the elders. So it's something that is very encouraged.
Now, you've said that your site does not focus primarily on women, but they have some fascinating stories to tell, and they have a different experience than really anyone else in these lands, in North America, don't they?
Yes, they do. We brought attention recently on our Facebook site that there's a PSA going around that are featuring Native Americans, specifically one of them that we've met as part of our project, talking about how Native women and Alaskan women are 2.5 times more likely to be a victim of abuse and physical violence, not just on the reservation but in general. And so it's things like that we need to that people need to know about and understand, and so it's important for us to not only talk about the positive things and really try to bring those to light, but also, you know, to show a contrast of where they're coming from and how resilient these people are and we are.
Were there things that surprised you on your trip when you were exploring for these different stories?
I don't know.
I think, well, one thing that surprised me is that we tend to ask the question of what makes you proud to be Native American. And I think in 9 out of 10 times that we asked that question, the answer that we got was that we're still here despite everything. Yeah. And so I think that shows a lot of the spirit, and it was really inspiring for us. You know, despite everything that happened, we're still here, we're still doing things, and we're proud of what we are and what we've done.
I think I saw that you, in a previous interview, you said you met someone in New Mexico, a man in New Mexico who has a very different experience than most.
Yes, he is a gay man, and he told us a story about how in all of the 560 some federally recognized tribes in the U.S. that there is no word in any of those tribes for the word gay or homosexual or lesbian or any of that. It's actually, if you go back in history and teachings and through stories, it's referred to as being two-spirited. And it was often known as a positive thing and a very sacred and honorable thing if you had a two-spirited person in your family. So in our culture and in various tribes, it was never looked at as a negative thing. In fact, it was very honorable. So that was beautiful.
So you live in the United States and you live in London. How do you make this collaboration work?
Well, thanks to technology, we're in touch every day. We speak to each other every day through social media or just texting or everything. So it's not that difficult. The difficult part is getting myself here to the United States most of the time,
yeah.
But we just like talk all the time. We spend hours just talking on Skype, saying we should do this, and we exchange articles and, you know, just like thoughts. And so there's a lot of communication going on between the two of us.
Danielle, you mentioned your Facebook page, and
yeah.
we were checking it out and found some different things. And one of the things that made news very recently was a post about a woman from Canada,
yes,
who has done a first in the world.
Yeah. Her name is Ashley Collingbull, and she's pictured here. We posted it because she made history. She was the first Indigenous woman or First Nations woman to become Mrs. Universe. So she's Cree from Canada, and I remember just seeing my Facebook post and all the Native in the kind of the Native community just so happy and celebratory over this honorable thing because it's never happened.
Did that create a lot of buzz
It
in the
did.
Native American community?
It sure did. Yep.
Source of pride?
People are very proud of her, yes.
You mentioned the post, the video of the women who live in Native American,
yes.
In Alaska, and other Native American women who are 2.5 times more likely to be assaulted than any other women in the United States.
Yeah.
Some people that visiting your website might be seeing this for the first time.
Sure, yeah, and we encourage you to go to our Facebook page, the Red Road Project on Facebook, and you can view the PSA. It's just a few minutes long, but it's really just bringing attention to some of those issues that we see out there.
What are some of the other issues that are talked about within the Native American community?
Drug and alcohol abuse is very common. And suicide. We have the highest rate of suicide among young people. When you go to the graveyards, they're just littered and full of young people that have committed suicide for one reason or another. And it's repercussions and residual scars, I think, of what happened in generations before them, their parents and their parents' parents. And it's just, it's a very big issue that we have.
It's probably hard for some people to understand because also on your Facebook page we see images of the dances, which looks like everybody is having a good time and fairly well adjusted.
Yeah, the powwows, Carlotta and I go to them quite frequently. We were just there in May at the largest gathering in North America called the Gathering of Nations. And one of my most favorite dances of all of them is the fancy shawl, where the women wear these beautiful handmade shawls and they do a special dance. So that was kind of one of the videos that we had posted.
So how can people get involved to help your project along and help be more aware during a Native American Heritage Month?
Well, one of our aims is for people to learn about this culture and to just just go beyond what they just simply know. So I think it would be great if people just talk about the project, visit our website, visit other people's website, just learn about the culture and talk about it with friends and family, and it's just a great way to educate yourself and the people around you. So I think that would be really helpful.
And I would say if there's any Native Americans that catch wind of the project or what we're doing, I would encourage them to reach out to us, and we're always interested in talking to other natives and various tribes, and we want to be interactive with them. It's not just our project, it's their project as well.
Do you see this growing?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, we hope to visit the West Coast, because we cover the Midwest and the Southwest a lot, and we'll be covering the Southeast now. But we really hope to visit the West Coast and the Northeast of the U.S. So if anyone from that area knows of someone that we should get in touch with, then that'd be great. Yeah.
That's excellent. Well, thank you so much for sharing this with us. I'm sure we have some questions from our studio audience and virtually as well. So I'll hand the floor over to Brittany in our audience today. Brittany.
Hello. Yes, we have two great questions from our virtual audience. First is, are you still using the tribal language in the tribes and in urban communities?
That's a great question, and we didn't even really touch about that, but that's a very big issue right now that we're facing, is keeping our languages alive. In fact, when Carlotta and I went to 3 affiliated tribes in northern North Dakota, there was one Mandan speaker living, and he is at the brink of probably going to be passing soon. So the languages are literally dying. And so there are initiatives by some of my peers that are out there doing all they can do to keep the languages alive, start initiatives in schools, and making these immersion classes for children at preschool age so that they just grow up as its natural language. So it's things that we're really struggling with, and we're fighting hard to keep going.
Oh, and another question, they asked, what did you learn along the way? Some surprises that you'd like to share with the audience?
Surprises. Well, I was surprised to see how much people thought that this project was needed, that we started the project because we thought there was a gap in representation of Native Americans, of positive issues. And to me, the most rewarding thing was after we met someone and these people would say, thank you for what you're doing, it's really great what we're doing, we need a project like yours out there. And that just it just gives you so much strength of all the times that you're like, should we continue this? Because it's quite a challenge to do this project. But when we get that kind of feedback, we're like, wow, we're on the right path, we should keep doing this. And I think it was a lesson for me as well, don't be afraid of just chasing your dream. If you want to do something, just don't think about too much about, the difficulties, just go on and do it.
Yeah.
Is there a lot of thought given to the outside world, outside of the reservation, or outside of being a member of Native American and being part of normal life in the United States and losing touch with your roots? Is that a worry?
I think I'm not sure if it's a cognizant worry, but we are part of everyday life. The reservation is kind of, there's no fences, or we're not confined in these cages or anything like that. It's so we are in and out, and it's the biggest takeaway is that if you grow up on the reservation, you know that life, and as you venture out into the modern world, don't forget who you are. Don't forget where you come from. Do what you can to help your people, and we represent 1% of the entire United States population. So if we don't all have a voice together, and nobody's going to speak for us.
Great, then that's a perfect way to, I think, that's end the segment. Danielle, Carlotta, thank you so much for coming and telling us about the Red Road Project. For more information on the redroadproject.com, you can visit their website. In just a moment, we'll be speaking to a panel about Comcast's Native American Outreach Plan. But before we do, take a look at these 2 public service announcements about some wonderful programs related to Native American culture.
Native peoples have always called this place home. We work to preserve the sacred, life-giving resources that connect us all. We urban Indians honor the great city of Seattle. We find strength in our diversity and hope in our unity. We come together today to build a great tomorrow drawing upon the wisdom of our ancestors.
Like a seed that needs water to grow, so does a culture. Because within each seed, each tribe, and every American Indian community is the capacity to be culturally and economically sustainable. At First Nations Development Institute, we support programs that cultivate self-sufficiency. We believe when we nourish the seeds of traditional knowledge, we create the kind of growth and solutions that we all can gain from. Learn more at firstnations.org/seed.
FirstNations.org and RedEagleSoaring.org. When you have some time, please look into those organizations for more information. Red Eagle Soaring is a nonprofit with the goal to empower American Indian and Alaska Native youth to express themselves with confidence and clarity through traditional and contemporary performing arts. First Nations, also a nonprofit, focuses on strengthening and revitalizing Native American economies and communities. I'd like to take a brief moment now to recognize a few interesting articles we found that give a little peek into what is happening in our country as it relates to Native American heritage. Just last month, Indian Country reported that Alaska officials proclaimed what is still widely recognized in the United States as Columbus Day to be Indigenous Peoples Day. The article reads, "The state joins a number of other cities that have recognized Indigenous Peoples Day, including Portland, Oregon, and Albuquerque, New Mexico this year." South Dakota was the first to rename the federal holiday as a Native American Day in 1990. Also in Alaska, the Native American Rights Fund, which is the oldest and largest nonprofit law firm dedicated to asserting and defending the rights of Indian tribes, organizations, and individuals nationwide, solidified an agreement with the state that will require the provision of election materials and ballots in native languages, Gwich'in, and several Yup'ik dialects. The Alaska Lieutenant Governor Byron Mallott said this will strengthen our election process so that voters can have the opportunity to understand fully all voting information before they vote. And we've got one more for you. California Governor Jerry Brown has signed Assembly Bill 30, which effectively bans the use of the term Redskin and the Redskin mascot in all California public schools. The changes are already underway there, and will keep a lookout for other states that may follow in Governor Brown's lead. Comcast is also committed to being a model company for diversity and inclusion. We reach this goal in many ways, one of those being the Native American Outreach Plan. Here's a video that highlights some of these initiatives.
Here at the Comcast Washington region, we are launching the Native Workforce Training Program in Seattle. And we were lucky enough to have a corporate visit from Philadelphia, a couple of folks from the HR Diversity Inclusion Group, along with community investment folks, to take a tour of our local Native American community sites. This morning we took a tour of the Chief Seattle Club. It's essentially a social service agency dedicated only to Native Americans.
We're just really grateful to Comcast for their investment in the community, for noticing and understanding that urban Native people are here, that we're thriving, and that we have a lot to give back to the greater community. So thank you, Comcast.
Our tour also got to stop by the Native American-inspired Longhouse located in the heart of the University of Washington campus.
Westerbolt translates to intellectual house in the Lushootseed language. We are a building on the University of Washington campus meant to be a support system for Native students, faculty, and staff on campus, as well as reflective of the fact that the university sits on tribal lands.
This is day 2 of the Native American Workforce Training Program. Day 1 of the training session. Behind me, they are working on their resumes. Our facilitator is wonderful. Her name is Janeen James, and she has been spending the morning training them how to work on their resumes, how to include the right kind of work experience, how to make a first impression. It's been a great first morning.
At Comcast, diversity is in the very fiber of everything that we do. And it's important for us to be inclusive of all people across the country in our business, in the way that we invest in our communities, and frankly, in the way that we employ people. So for us, it's very important that we include Native Americans. They're part of our communities where we live, where we work. They're also part of our workforce.
We're very proud to work with the Native American workforce and help the participants find opportunities with Comcast or other employers throughout the greater Puget Sound area.
It kind of teaches me how to market myself to larger corporations like Comcast or anybody else maybe, turning out to be a great experience.
The National Urban Indian Family Coalition has been partnered with Comcast for about 3 years, and one of the main reasons we're so excited about this partnership is getting to see a national corporation have such a viable presence in the local communities, and especially with Comcast because it provides media exposure for a community that has been largely invisible in America.
We are lucky to have 3 members of the project plan here with us to tell us more. Pam Kelly, Janeen Comenote, and Colleen Echohawk. Ladies, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Tell us, what is the outreach program? A lot of employees are probably hearing about this for the first time.
Sure. So our Native American outreach efforts have launched simultaneously in Denver and Seattle. And our goal is to educate and raise awareness as it relates to gaining employment in corporate America. So our focus has been on helping the Native American community, specifically in Denver, as they transition from the reservation to an urban life and urban environment, to begin getting those skills and be job ready and have that workplace development as well.
So these are people who already had transitioned off the reservation and into these communities, but now just need some help to find an open door?
Correct. Their lives have been very secluded on the reservation, and so offering them an opportunity to grow outside of the education they already have, the experience they already have, and be able to apply that to professional positions within the city they now live in is our ultimate goal.
Is there excitement in the Comcast company for a program like this?
Absolutely. It gives us a great opportunity to partner with that community and hopes of driving a pipeline of talent for our organization as well.
So how did this come about? Did we approach the Native American community, or did they come calling at Comcast?
Actually, it was a partnership. I'll let Janeen speak to that.
Janeen,
Yes.
How did this all happen?
This started about 3 years ago. The National Urban Indian Family Coalition, of which I'm the executive director, we've been working with Comcast for about 3 to 4 years now, maybe a little bit longer. And this was something when we looked to work with Comcast and look to figure out ways that Comcast could work within broadly within Native American communities. We looked both at media exposure, which Comcast is really good at, and then we also looked at workforce development and actually creating within these cities a viable pipeline for Native people to become employed at Comcast.
Now, it's a pilot program right now, so it's starting off very small. What was the reaction when people in your community, those people that you work with, heard about this?
It's very exciting. I think any time that you have such a large company like Comcast with the presence that Comcast has, everybody knows it's a household name company. Whenever you have a company like that who's willing to come in and work within community, the communities tend to get pretty excited about opportunities that come our way.
You're in Seattle, Colleen.
Yeah.
Is there excitement there as well?
Absolutely. So I lead the Chief Seattle Club. It's a community center and day shelter for homeless American Indian Alaska Native people. And so our population that's participated in this program have just been thrilled with the opportunity. They're excited to be able to learn some soft skills that will help them engage in the workforce, and also just to be really noticed. I think that the greatest thing about this project is that it really builds confidence. It really gives people these skills to get out there and to put some resumes out there, and also to get into the pipeline of Comcast workforce. So we have some folks that have applied to work at Comcast already, and have visited call centers and have just looked at the different opportunities, and I think it's really been an amazing way to build confidence within my community.
Now, there's some educational background to some of the participants, and well-educated people that are getting involved. They just never had that introduction into corporate America. Is that correct?
Correct. So in Denver, we've identified, of our audience of 11 participants that we have in the pilot program, there's close to half of the group that has some level of advanced education or work experience that's applicable to positions with Comcast. So it's more about us helping them through the 4-part program of understanding the transition into corporate America, having come from a not even an urban life, but a completely secluded and isolated lifestyle, and understanding what it means to be able to navigate in a corporate space, be it through communications, simple things like email etiquette and dress code and all of those types of things, and just being able to, as was mentioned, raising their confidence, but also helping them understand the importance of it in order to be successful in our environment.
So it sounds like they're benefiting in many different ways from this outreach program.
Absolutely.
Has there been anything like this before in the Native American community with your organizations?
This does exist in varying capacities in cities throughout America. This is probably the largest national company that I know of. I know there's some in the tech sector that are doing some work around this, but this is the only media company that I know of that actually has come into the Native communities, and not just in the workforce investment program, the workforce development. We've also rolled out public service announcements in 4 cities that Comcast has worked with us on doing. So it's very visible.
So they're in the program now. How far through the program are the candidates so far?
So in Denver, our 3rd of 4 sessions is happening right now. It is in progress as we speak. The 4th session will be in December, along with graduation at that event. And I believe Seattle's on the same timeline.
Yeah, we'll be graduating in December. We have some really excited participants who are really looking forward to graduating and putting those skills to use.
Is there a chance that we'll be working with graduates within Comcast?
We're hoping.
Yeah,
we absolutely are hopeful.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So tell me about what American Indian life is like in the 21st century right now. What are some of the misconceptions people have, and what are the biggest issues?
Yeah.
Woo.
That's a big question. I think that there's a couple of interesting things, though, to think about. One, we know now that about 70% of Native people do not live on reservations, but live in big urban centers, and so that's a change. I think that people don't really know about that. And I think on a for me on a personal level, I have a 6-year-old daughter, and she happened to be talking to a friend the other day, and they're looking at a book about American Indian and Alaska Native people. And she said, well, I'm a Native American. And the little boy said, no, you're not. And she said, yes, I am. And he said, no, you're not. They're all dead. And I think that's a pretty common misconception for children who go through elementary school, because I've heard other Native children experience this. And so I think the message that I want to share in November is that Native people are here, we're alive, we're thriving, and we have a part to play in this world, and that the Indigenous voice that has been missing for many years is here. And I think that we're here to help solve problems that have been unsolvable because we have a different perspective and we have different ways of working things out in our culture. So I'm happy to participate with Comcast this month to really encourage the perspectives of Native people.
Well, with so many people living in urban centers, as you mentioned, a program like this, one would hope it expands rapidly.
Exactly. That's the goal. Obviously, as we conclude this year, we're going to take a hard look at our outcomes from both participants and those that have been hosting the sessions, and really evaluate what steps we need to take to enhance and improve the program so that it's successful going forward. And additionally, look at launching it in other urban cities that have a partnership with Comcast so that we are not isolated to just Denver and Seattle.
This is a media company. How do you feel that Native Americans are being portrayed in the media?
Largely not portrayed in the media, and I think when you see Native Americans portrayed in the media, it's often in sort of the stereotypical noble savage, sort of like we're all on horseback and we all live in teepees, and
so it hasn't progressed much since John Wayne, then, it sounds like.
It's kind of astonishing that really is still the generalized media perception of American Indian. So you don't really see a lot of contemporization of American Indian life in the media as much, you know, and I think that's what feeds into, you know, this notion that her 6-year-old daughter just went through, what, last week, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
When you hear a story like what we had about Governor Brown saying we're not going to use the Redskins term anymore, how does that resonate within the community?
Beautifully. We really, a good portion of American Indian communities will absolutely support that.
All right, well, good things to keep aware of in Native American Heritage Month. Thank you so much for sharing that information. I'm sure we have some questions from our studio audience, so I'm going to turn it over once again to Brittany. Brittany, what do viewers want to know?
Sure. Two of our questions from the virtual audience asked, can people visit the reservations and see how the tribes are doing at the powwows and such, similar to what Philemon did with his book?
It really depends on the tribe. So, you know, there are over 520 tribes in the United States. And so some of them you can go to any powwow that they have, any of their cultural gatherings. Many of them have museums. They have very public places that anyone can really go to learn about that tribe. And then there's other things that you literally just can't go to because they're ceremonial or they're closed off to the public. So really that's almost a tribe by tribe basis, but overall you really can, you know, if you hear of a powwow at a local reservation, those generally tend to be open to anybody.
And the urban centers, there often are powwows, and anyone is welcome to those, and you can go and participate. And the main thing is to really be watching and seeing how people are reacting. There's certain protocols that happen, but they're really easy to understand, and you can ask people around you about how it's all working. And it's one of those just kind of common courtesies, just to ask and follow the protocols in that area.
Great. And our last question from the virtual audience comes from Universal Parks, and they ask, how can our employee resource groups here at Comcast help you keep the culture alive?
All right, I'll take that one. The employee resource groups, I think that our continued focus on recognizing diversity and inclusion in the workplace will be significant, and we just need to continue driving that focus and raising the awareness so that all of our demographics are represented and recognized. So, thanks.
Very good. Ladies, thank you so much. Is there anything else you'd like to say on this, now that we're in November and Native American Heritage Month? Any closing thoughts?
Well, we're just really grateful for Comcast giving us this opportunity and supporting American Indian, Alaska Native people and recognizing the wisdom and the goodness in Native people. I'm just grateful on behalf of my organization for the opportunity, so thank you.
Yeah, and I would say likewise, having Comcast being one of the national partners in Comcast, I think speaks very highly of the diversity that they're seeking. And to have a diversity that is, like I said before, so often just an invisible population in America. Just the recognition that we're still here and that we're still a viable culture and organizations is pretty amazing for us.
Yeah, be that ally. It's important. We need it.
Well, we're happy to be a part of that, and can't wait to see it grow in the future. It's a brand new program, but I'm sure we'll be hearing more about it in the future.
Absolutely.
Janeen, Colleen, Pam, thank you so much. Brittany, I think you've pulled the names for our winners of Philemon Lopez's photo book. Is that correct?
Yes, we have.
And the winners are?
Great. So in our audience, we have Kelby here. Where's Kelby? Great. Congratulations. We also have Fred Maas, and we have Ali Pareca as our winners in the studio audience.
Congratulations to all the winners.
Yes. And for our virtual audience, we have Michaela Washington, and we have Angela Gomez.
Where are they from? Do you know?
Philadelphia and Florida.
Wow. Very good. Well, I'm sure they'll enjoy Philemon's book. I took a look at the pictures before the show, and they are beautiful. Thank you to all of our guests today. And one last thing in recognition of Native American Heritage Month. Each November, we celebrate the rich culture of the Native American communities with a collection of content across our Xfinity on-demand platforms. This year, we had the honor of partnering with acclaimed Native American filmmaker Ian Skoroden and with Michael Smith of the American Indian Film Institute to curate this special offering. Available to Xfinity TV customers for free throughout the month of November, the collection will feature a selection of films, documentaries, and series from Native American directors that span topics ranging from Native American veterans to life on reservations in the mid-1800s. And next week, be sure to tune in on November 11th for the next episode of the Employee Enrichment Series. we'll be celebrating Veterans Day in New York City with some amazing guests. My name is Bill Henley. It's been a pleasure to be with you as your host today. Before we go, please take a look at some wonderful photo montage and beautiful Native American flute sounds played by Philemon Lopez, who seems to have endless talent himself. The photos you'll see are of Monument Valley, part of Navajo Nation. Philemon says he found Monument Valley to be a very spiritual place, and in fact, it is where he first picked up a Native American flute. It definitely gives you a perspective as to how the Native people live, where they came from, and what their culture is. Have a great Native American Heritage Month and a wonderful afternoon.